Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. Welcome back to Old Man Rambles. Now, not sure exactly when this is going out because I don't necessarily release these in the order that they were recorded. Um, but I wanted to do something a little fun and silly. And I wanted to talk about rum. This is not going to be, this is just me talking about rum because I wanted something to talk about. And a couple of weeks ago, it was my birthday. So before we get into that, anyone who knows me knows that rum is my spirit of choice. It has been for quite some time. Basically, since I had my first Mai Tai at the age of, I think I was 19, maybe 20. But, since the mid 80s, rum is my spirit of choice. But I didn't drink a lot of it. I mean, if I went out to parties and stuff, and it was available, I did learn how to make a Mai Tai. First cocktail I learned how to make. And for like a year or so, I would go to parties with the mix and, mix myself a couple of Mai Tais. And if I went to bars, if I had the extra cash to spend instead of just buying cheap beer, I would splurge and buy a Mai Tai. But that was pretty much the extent of it. I was a poor working slob. I didn't have a lot of money. I couldn't really see myself keeping bottles of rum in the house. That's changed. But probably around 20 or so years ago, that changed. My wife and I have an arrangement where whatever we're doing for like a party, whoever's side of the family it is, that person gets drinking, the other person is a designated driver. So if it was for my wife's family and my wife's friends, she would drink and I would drive home, and vice versa. If it was my family and my friends, I would drink, she would drive home. But I noticed that like on the days when I was drinking, that I was generally drinking beer because beer is inexpensive, but I would get full very quickly. I'd be at a cookout having burgers and chips and hot dogs and snacks and stuff, and I would just get stuffed so quickly drinking beer. But on the days when my wife was drinking and I was being the designated driver and I was just drinking root beer, that I could drink 8 or 10 root beers and be fine and still snack. Didn't fill me up as much. So that was when I started. It's like, well, I would just have a rum and soda. I would use root beer because I don't like Coke. But so that was the start. But I pretty much just bought Captain Morgan's spiced rum because it was cheap. Not the cheapest, but it was a decent, inexpensive rum. And then about 2011, 2012, somewhere in there, somewhere therein, my friends would have like a game day, and one of my friends decided to start making cocktails, and he made it dark and stormy, and so I liked it, got myself some Black Seal rum and some ginger beer, and started making myself dark and stormies because it was not much different than rum and soda. It was black rum and ginger beer instead of Captain Morgan's and root beer. Yeah, so very similar, but people got the idea that because I was drinking something different, that they would start buying me rum as a gift, and they started buying me various brands and flavors. And that kind of is how I got started trying out different rums. What is rum? Rum is a spirit made from sugarcane, made from either sugarcane juice or molasses, something to do with sugarcane. There are two basic ways to distill it. I don't know them because I'm not a pro. Rum comes in silver, gold, black, and spiced. There's a difference between like the silver and gold rums are considered proper rums. Spiced rum is spiced rum. I do tend to favor the gold and spiced rums, the darker rums. What differentiates what they call proper rum from spiced rum isn't really the color, it's the additives. Most rums will have something to color it or to flavor it. If it's aged in oak casks, it will take on a color. They might put sugar or caramel or vanilla or something there to flavor it, but it's usually minor. If it goes above a certain amount, I think, don't quote me on this because I'm not a pro, but I think if it's more than more than 50 milligrams per bottle, then it's considered a spiced rum. It's got too much sugar in it to be considered a proper rum. Um, and as I said, I do prefer the darker rums. This would be a proper rum. It's a gold rum. These two are proper. I'm not sure about this one, because I noticed it says it's coffee. I noticed it said it's coffee flavored, so this might be considered a spice rum. I know that Plantera, this says original dark. I know that Metasalem is a spiced rum. Pretty sure it is. As I said, a couple weeks ago was my birthday. I'd gotten some money for my birthday, and ordinarily I stick with Captain Morgan's. It's inexpensive. We can usually get at the if we're driving through if we're driving through New Hampshire, we'll stop at the liquor store there because it's tax free, and we'll just buy like 4 or 5 bottles so we can, we wind up doing that 2 or 3 times a year, where we'll stock up so that way we don't have to. Because I don't drink a lot of rum. For the most part, I'll have a glass here and there. I'll have a cocktail here and there. So I don't drink a lot of it. But, we'd been out, my wife was going to make a punch for a summer party, looking for some flavored alcohol. And we happened upon this place that had a very good selection. Like, you go to the New Hampshire liquor store and you've got hundreds and hundreds of bottles, but you've got like 50 bottles of Captain Morgan's, so they have like big piles of brands, but they don't have a lot of selection really. Whereas this little store had, not a lot of bottles, but a lot of different varieties. So I said, when it's my birthday, I'm going to come back and, maybe buy myself a bottle or so. My wife offered to buy me 2 bottles. So my wife bought me these 2, and I bought myself these 2. So I've cracked the seal on these so I can pour them. I have some shot glasses here. You can't see them because I can't raise this table any higher, and I don't want to put the camera down any lower because it will cut off the top of my head. So we're just going to do this. So my thing is I'm just going to taste these to see what they taste like. This one, and we'll talk about them just for fun. This is Chairman's Reserve, Finest St. Lucia Rum, original. Distilled, blended, and bottled by St. Lucia's Distilleries, Ruzo, St. Lucia. Is that Wisconsin? This is Wisconsin. Triple distilled pot rum. Has all kinds of stuff about, nuances of vanilla spice on the palate. A medium bodied texture leads to a melted mix of raisin fruit. Yeah, we'll see. On a cork. So I'm just going to do a splash because there are 4 of these and I don't want to be bombed. I have made that mistake in the past, thinking, let's take a sip. So, and I also don't have any like fancy glasses. My thing is I will occasionally pour myself a shot to sip as dessert instead of having candy. This is my treat. So it's got a sharp smell to it, like a sharp alcohol smell. A hint of sugar, but mostly it's got the oaky taste that got some burn. Got a burn there. What is this? Don't want to spill it. This is 40 horsepower. So a little higher than some of the, it's medium high. These are not expensive rums. I would consider these moderately priced rums. They're a bit more expensive than like the Captain Morgan's, but they're not a top shelf. They're more of medium shelf. These are reasonably priced, but nicely priced rums. So yeah, this has more of a, excuse me, like I said, that oaky taste I associate with whiskey. There is a flavor of rum there, a little bit of sweetness, but I'm not getting any like, maybe a little bit of that vanilla note that they talked about on the back, but Yeah, this is not a medium body texture. This has got some bite to it. And this one I picked up. This is Kopi coffee flavored. I didn't know it was coffee. Didn't notice it was coffee flavored when I picked it up. I saw it was brewed in Sebago, Maine. And I was like, they distill rum in Maine. So I kind of picked it up out of curiosity. Um, just distilled and bottled by hand in small batches. Sebago Lake Distillery. No other notes. So, love that sound. Gotta love the cork. Nice traditional shot glass here. Just a gurgle, 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 gurgle. Little splash there. Don't want to spill it. So, another one with a sharp alcohol scent to it. I do taste the coffee. It's kind of faint, but I also only took a small sip. Definitely coffee flavored, but again, you got that alcohol burn on your tongue. This one also 40 horsepower. So good thing I'm taking small sips. So like I said, I'm not sure if these two have enough of a sharp alcohol burn that they may be proper rums. I didn't do any research, but there's only a hint of sugar and vanilla, hint of vanilla in this one, in the Chairman's Reserve. The Sebago Lake Kopi, the hint of coffee. I should have had a glass of water to cleanse my palate. Now I did those first because I was really interested in trying these last two. Plantaray, I mean, they changed their name. They used to be called Plantation Rum. They changed their name, I'm not sure, not too long ago, but in the last year or so. Not quite as good as the other one. But I do like some of the other Plantaray rums that I have tried. So I am very interested to see what their original dark is. This one is also 40 horsepower. Just a tiny bit. Go, 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 go. Need a napkin or something. So, much milder smell. Don't get as much of that harsh, like paint thinnery alcohol, rubbing alcohol smell to it. So that's a bonus. That is another thing that spice rums do tend to be smoother in flavor, less harsh. That's one of the reasons I tend to favor them. But so, see how Plantaray Original Dark goes. Definitely not as harsh. It is harsher than I would have expected. More of that alcohol tint than I would have expected. Overall, it's very mild though. It's not very complex though. I do not have an experienced palate, but I have had other Plantaray rums that did have a more complex flavor. It's good. But I think I was hoping for more, considering how much I like the other ones that I've tried. Maybe my hopes are too high. Having said that, I'm now more concerned about this Matusalem. The reason being, now this is Matusalem, their Grand Reserva. I have a bottle of their regular stuff, an empty one. I saved the bottle because it was like a nice pirate-like bottle. That was one my father bought me, and I really, really liked it. But I've been unable to find it anywhere. And the fact that as we were walking through and I happened to see a bottle of it, I was like, I have to buy this. I like the other one so much. That's a better pop. My little mason jar shot glass. This is my favorite shot glass. This is This is my dessert shot glass, so I saved it for the last one. Again, goigo, 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 goigo. Good, I didn't spill any of that one. This is one thing about these bottles. They don't always pour well. Captain Morgan's has a little thing on the top where it pours easily. So, not getting much of a scent off of it. It's there, but it's very mild. This one I like. It's very sweet though, sweeter than I anticipated. Not unpleasantly so. But it's also much more mild than the other ones. That is the thing about the aging rums do tend to smooth out the flavor, leach out some of the harshness. So I do like, when I can splurge on them, I do tend to get the Reservas, you know, the 5-year, the 8-year. The 8-year age rums is about as high as I can push my wallet to go. Anything more than that, I feel guilty spending that much money on a single bottle, because that's just too much. This is a decent rum though. It was a bit more expensive because it is their Reserva. I'll admit, I haven't had the bottle of their standard in so long. I don't really even remember what it tastes like. I just remember that I liked it a lot. So if I had to rank them, it pretty much does go like this, you know, favorite, second, third, and fourth. My tradition of rums, how I handle one once I taste them, is the ones that I really like, I'll tend to do them as a shot. You know, I'll do like a single shot glass. I don't measure a shot, I just pour it in here. And you know, I will sit here at my computer and just like take little sips. I'll make it last for a while so I don't get bombed. Whew. I can feel this though. But anyway, my tradition is to save the ones I like as a sipping rum, and the other ones I will use as mixers. You know, because if I don't care for this as much, I don't mind diluting the flavor with something else to mix it with. What I mix it with varies. I do generally just use a root beer because that's the soda that I tend to drink. Root beer, ginger ale. It's coming up on fall. I do like rum and apple cider. Rum mixes really well with apple cider. I'm gonna have to get myself a jug of apple cider to maybe get rid of some, not get rid of, but I will probably, I probably won't be rebuying these two. I will drink them, enjoy them, and share them. This one I'm not positive about. The Plantaray Original Dark, it's decent. But I think this one might wind up being a mixer because I think its flavor lends itself to mixing well. These two, I would mix more to get rid of the flavor. Not that I think they taste bad, but like I said, I'm not a big whiskey drinker, so this one having a whiskey flavor to it, this one's okay. I probably will wind up sipping them neat. This one I'll probably have another shot of to test, and I'll try it on a clean palate some other night, you know, when I haven't had 3 other tastes of rums. I will probably do that as well with the other two. I'll next couple of weeks, I will do a glass of this by itself without having to taste anything else. Do a glass of this by itself. But this is fun. I like talking about the rum. Something different, something silly, something goofy, something lighthearted, you know, talking about something fun instead of something, you know, depressing. So I may do another one of these again if I manage to scrounge up another couple of bottles. I do have a couple bottles out there that I had on hand that I just hadn't cracked into yet. So I'm doing maybe no taste testing in here in the next few months. But until then, this is my little rum journey. And good hunting. Oh, I don't want to have the table over. That would be bad.